Hello, this is Glynn Perkins from the 1059 newsroom. The music world is in mourning following the passing of Ronnie Hawkins. The legendary rocker died during the weekend at the age of 87. Vaughan resident and music reviewer Eric Alper joins me now. Eric, Ronnie Hawkins was such a legend. His death has left a huge gap in not only the Canadian music scene, but worldwide.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I venture to say that he's probably the most important musician that Canada has ever produced. Even though that he was American, he was born in Arkansas. But in the late 1950s, when he had a club in Arkansas, he really helped build and move forward the early days of rock and roll, booking artists like Jerry Lee Lewis and Carl Perkins and Roy Orbison. When he came up to tour, because he was also a musician, he appeared in Hamilton, Ontario in the late 1950s, early 1960s, and really became an overnight success. He, saw the love that people in that area were giving back to him. He loved this country so much that he just decided to move here permanently. He never gave up his American citizenship, but obviously, Canada called him one of his own, and, went on to have chart success in the U.S. with Mary Lou, even reaching the top 40 on the Billboard charts back in 1959. But then, of course, when he formed the Hawks, his backing band made up of Robbie Robertson and Rick Danko, Levon Helm, Garth Hudson, and Richard Manuel, they went on to be Bob Dylan's backing band, and they changed their name to the band, literally changing music 3 or 4 times since then. They helped the creation of alternative rock, alternative country, folk, roots, Americana. We're still feeling the effects of it today, hearing Jack White and the Black Keys and so many other artists that look to the band as almost ground zero for the creation of the music that they're creating. If that's all he ever did, he would still be a legendary artist. But bringing artists like David Clayton Thomas to the fold, Burton Cummings, Gowan, all of these artists had their careers helped and succeeded because Ronnie Hawkins saw something in them that very other few people saw.
I was fortunate enough to meet Ronnie a couple of times. He was a larger-than-life character.
He was certainly, never one short of stories. He was certainly never one short of laughs. Absolutely larger than life. Loved the fact that his colleagues and the people and the musicians that he surrounded himself with might have had bigger fame and fortune and popularity that he had, but he was so proud of them because as a leader, that's what you want. You want to be able to have that group of people. Look, being a musician is tough. Being in a band is even tougher. It's why most bands don't last 2 or 3 years. But the fact that he was able to find these people and hang out with them, not only as musicians, as a fellow musician, but somebody that was an amazing life of the party. And even John Lennon and Yoko Ono hung out with him in 1969 when they were doing their bed-in tours, talking about peace and love and war is over if you want it, from their beds in various places around the world and inviting the media to come and do interviews with them literally in their bed. They kind of hung out in Mississauga, Ontario, and there's video of it that's on YouTube. And John actually helped do promotion for Ronnie's latest single at the time. So he had that influence and that good time feeling for so many other musicians, and people just loved him. The very fact that he officially passed away on Sunday, but from Thursday night onwards on social media, when rumors started to kind of spread that he was unwell, the stories that people were posting about meeting him, like you, were just so amazing to read. And the fact that Ronnie got to see a lot of his success while he was living is certainly, that's rare. Because sometimes sometimes we kind of give awards and Hall of Fames after they're gone. But, Ronnie won the Juno. He got on the Juno Awards Hall of Fame. He got on the Canada's Walk of Fame. He got the Order of Canada while he was still able to enjoy it, and also be a family man and being married and having a family that, that was extremely important to him. So absolutely.
And he was the real deal. That's what came across from me. He wasn't a pretend rock star. He was the real deal, and he was very genuine, and he seemed to care about the people around him.
If there's any ever doubt about his musicianship, because you can look at the Billboard charts and say, well, he didn't really crack it, as much as say Paul Anka did, or Justin Bieber, or Drake, or Neil Young ever did. I mean, he only had a couple of hits on there, and one of them actually just reached the Billboard Top 40 back in 1959 with Mary Lou. But you just have to watch the band's The Last Waltz music documentary of the concert of their final show and realize that during his performance, he had the most fun. He looked like that he was like a kid being on stage with his idols, and they were all his peers, and he brought such joy to the other musicians. You just have to look at them. It's almost one of the very few times that the band actually, looks like that they're having an awesome time during that concert. I think that there's a lot of pressure on them during that show. Certainly having all these cameras and Martin Scorsese directing didn't help, ease their relaxation time. But that performance of Ronnie Hawkins and the band is definitely absolutely one to watch. And it's so easy to see just how much love he had for them and how much love the band had for him.
You had this big-time rock and roll star living in small-town Ontario, in Peterborough, Stony Lake.
Yeah, most people would say, well, you got to move to the center of the universe in Toronto to do that. This is where the industry is. This is where all of the record labels and the booking agents and the clubs were. But he was just as happy being in Peterborough, Ontario, than any other artist that were living in a major city. I think that he had the best of both worlds. He can tour when he wants to. He can have that relaxation and away from the spotlight when he needed to. Certainly with his ailing health in the later years of his life allowed him to kind of stay out of the spotlight when he wanted to. But yeah, living in a small town, that's stuff that just doesn't happen, which kind of shows you that, Ronnie Hawkins was, really got to do what he wanted to do.
Eric, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me. We'll talk soon.
I'm Glynn Perkins from the 1059 Region Newsroom.